Here we go. All right, we're kicking this off, going live. Let me double check. I got to do a few pieces of cleanup duty here to get everything set up for the stream. I had to make some corrections. I was getting ready to go live and saw that I had an error in something, so I wanted to fix that before that kind of got out of hand. So let me just give me one moment here, and we're getting ready to transition to go live. So I see that, let's see here. All right, people are jumping in. That's awesome. Just give me 1 second here as I pull everything together here. Let's see here. All right, I just need to go over. I need to shoot this out. Copy that. Just shooting out a quick tweet. And we should be good to go. See if this works. Looks like I'm getting a little bit of, see, live now. 8, oops. All right, I'm trying to type over my mic. Not so easy. Here we go. All right, tweet that out. See how that looks. I tweeted something out before and it was putting up the wrong info. When I sent out the tweet. So let's see what we have here. I'm still putting out the wrong information. That's just awesome. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. I'm gonna have to delete this tweet again. It keeps putting out the wrong info. With my shortcut, it makes absolutely no sense. It looks like everything is lagging out. I'm not sure if you guys are seeing some lag out here. The stream looks solid, but when I transition over to YouTube, it looks like it's just completely lagged out. Let me see here. Can you guys see me okay? Am I actually on, or is this, I'm gonna pop out the chat. Let me see here. Stream is healthy, everything looks good. There shouldn't be any reason why this is showing lagging other than, oh, guess what? Windows updated yesterday. Hopefully that's not the case. All right, let me pull this up. Everything is just freezing up here. So let me see what's going on. Let's see. I can't even pop out the chat window. This is how slow. There we go. Holy cow. That's insane. I spent like 5 minutes. My image is completely frozen. Let me just throw this up. Here, let me pull this up on my phone. See what's going on here. All right, I don't see anything there. Nothing. Try this again. All right, that's great. I'm gonna go. This is Windows updated. Chip, you know the drill with this insane tech issues. Stream looks good. YouTube is showing me frozen on my end. If I'm on the dashboard. It's just showing it's trying to think, and Microsoft put out some update. So hey Vic, Steven, Bank Peterson, glad you guys could jump on. I have no idea what is going on here. So let me I'm going to try once again to pull this up on my phone so I can at least get some semblance of monitoring. We've got a lot of great things to cover this morning. So it looks like DNI might be streaming right now as well. Hard to say. I'm not even, did you guys get some notification that I was streaming? Because on my end, I'm not even getting a notification that I'm streaming. Oh, here we go. Okay. And there, okay. It's finally coming up on my end. Give me a minute here. Let's see what we got. It's the, am I looking frozen, or am I, you got the notification? All right, on my YouTube, I'm just frozen. I'm just frozen out completely. But you're saying everything looks good. I'm actually streaming. Oh no, I'm frozen over here too. Oh, you know what? This happened to me before with OBS. Hang on a second. My video capture is off. Man, I'll tell you what. Oh, here we go. I'm gonna take this Microsoft computer. I'm gonna go toss it in the lake. Huh. And one. There we go. Now I'm streaming live everywhere. All right, one Microsoft update, and it screws everything up. It's unfreaking believable. Man, we need to do a tech show instead of a. We need to do an OBS tech show. Maybe that'll actually help. Now I look like I'm streaming everywhere. I've got the pop out. Let me just monitor, make sure that all looks decent. Awesome. All right, everything looks good too on my end. Let me go back over here, except for YouTube. YouTube on the dashboard, showing everything frozen. All right, that's fine. I'm gonna jump into this, and then we'll move forward. We'll move through it. So as long as I looked decent, man. Oh, you know what? Let me check. This is gonna be crazy. All right. It's using right now. I'm using about 33% of my CPU. Stream is good though. I've got solid stream, solid green. Everything looks good. Then I go over to YouTube, and YouTube sucks. You know what? I could probably close this. I probably don't need that open. Then I'm gonna try to reopen that. I'm gonna get rid of Twitter. I don't need Twitter up here. And it's crazy too, because I updated YouTube. I updated everything on there on the dashboard to reflect the new thumbnail, to reflect the new info. And every time I post it on Twitter, it keeps pulling stuff. It keeps pulling all the old info. Man, oh man. Hang on. So got the espresso going. Spent days and days at all right, let's see here. Let me try to get back to my dashboard. I swear to God, when that last Windows updates, and I was reading the feedback, a lot of people are saying that the latest update, the latest Windows update, is causing everything to glitch out and slow down. I don't understand why in the world they're going to push out an update unless it's a security patch. You know, they were in such a rush to push out their update so that people could pull their USB thumb drives out without getting that error message. And who gives a crap? I've been pulling thumb drives out of computers without hitting the eject software indicator since I've had a computer and USB drives existed. You know, who gives a crap? It's insane. I'm trying to pull this up. Oh, there we go. Hey, look at that. I finally got the YouTube side thing working. Let me pop the chat out so I can actually see everything here, and I don't have to keep looking down at my phone. And then let's see here. Now I'll see who's jumped in. Appreciate you guys joining me early Saturday morning. We got somebody in from California, up extra early. Let's see here. So let's see who we got on so far. We've got Steven Chip, Ben Peterson. We've got Vic Nargo out of California. We've got Kig. I don't know if I've seen Kig on before. Welcome. You're about out of here. All right, awesome. Oh, Vic, you're at work. All right, so let's get this started. I'm really sorry about that. I spent the past 8 minutes discussing Microsoft issues. So, all right, let me pull up some notes here. Got a ton of things that I wanted to review, that I wanted to cover. And first and foremost, really the theme and the topic of the discussion today, I wanted to really emphasize one primary concept, and that is that currently the U.S. is falling into last place when it comes to blockchain technology, when it comes to digital assets, and even when it comes to healthcare. And I'm going to pull all of this stuff together. Yeah, Kig, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. So glad you've joined us on here. Glad you're you're here with us on an early Saturday morning to discuss some great topics. So I wanted to start off with something a little bit light, but again, like I said, we're going to get into an understanding why this theory of how or why the U.S. is and I don't even know if it's slowly falling into last place. And I had a really in-depth conversation with somebody yesterday about this, and this has been fermenting for a while now. But is it possible? I'm going to throw this out there for you guys to kind of mull over this. Is it possible that it has been preordained by the powers that be within the deep swamp to actually push the U.S. Into even either a level playing field or pulling U.S. exceptionalism back so that the U.S. does indeed slip behind the rest of the world, allowing the rest of the world to either catch up or surpass where we are as a country. And now think about this, and think about this in depth, because this has a lot to do, a lot of significance when it comes to blockchain and when it comes to digital assets. So I think this is really a critical point to consider. And when I bring up healthcare, you guys are going to see some interesting dynamics here as it all comes together. And I want you really to consider everything that we've talked about, everything that you guys know about regulatory clarity when it comes to digital assets and blockchain, the delays, the fact that other countries are pushing forward well ahead of where the U.S. is currently. Hey, Allison, thanks for joining us on. And I want you then to contemplate one thing. And like I said, I'm going to bring this all together here on today's talk. But I want you to contemplate where our healthcare is, as far as not necessarily forget about the political aspect, forget about the insurance aspect. We could have a whole conversation on how medical insurance has over the years pushed the cost of healthcare way up to an area that it doesn't belong in the United States. But that's not my point. My point is, think about the fact that healthcare in other countries is truly healthcare, whereas in the United States it's sick care, and has been constructed and is operating today in order to keep people sick and make people sick strictly for the reward, the financial rewards that are given as a result to large pharma and some of the other organizations that are out there. So I want you guys to really consider that. So I think these are great topics for an early morning. So before we get into that, though, I want to really step into an area just real briefly, because this kind of came up. And before I do that, hey, this is Jeff with the HODL Report. I'm glad you guys are joining me again early morning on the Morning Crypto. I want to give a shout out to Chip. I think he started live streaming recently on Tuesdays and Thursdays. He's doing an outstanding job. Chip also pulled together an amazing community video that a bunch of us participated in order to send out to and put in front of Congress to help support regulatory clarity and support the passing of the Token Taxonomy Act from an educational perspective. So Chip, thank you very much for all of that, everything that you've been doing. And man, we're loving your live streams as well. So also a shout out to DNI. I believe he's streaming this morning as well. The digital nomad investor. He's doing a great job, putting together his live stream. He did it in a very short period of time. He discusses very thought-provoking information. And so, big shout out to what he's accomplished in a short period of time on that as well. So I was hoping you'd be able to join us on. But, Ferdy, what's up? Hey, good to see you on. Thanks for joining us. So just as a side note to everything, and then we're going to get into what I was just talking about when it comes to the U.S. Falling behind on blockchain, digital assets, and in healthcare. Like I said, it's going to be a very interesting dynamic as we pull it all together. However, there was an article, and I think that this is a very important topic, especially as the digital asset space grows and expands. So there's one article that came out. It was on News BTC, and the theme of it was that an overwhelming majority of Bitcoin and crypto investors are refusing to report their taxes. So the question there is, what is the tax obligation when trading or selling digital assets, or if you're using digital assets to buy goods? And it was interesting because I sat down with my CPA and I showed him, I said, look, I've been, buying digital assets. He knows that. I explained to him a year ago that I'd sold some digital assets and we had to deal with the ramification of that. He asked me very succinctly if I held any digital assets on an international exchange with a value of more than $10,000. And if you do, and this is very important for everybody because if it's ever reported, but if you hold digital assets with a value of more than $10,000 on a foreign exchange, then that could be, that is a reportable event, meaning that it's something that should be then reported on income tax. Now, if you hold it on your ledger, if you hold it in Uphold, if you hold it on Coinbase, if you hold it in a domestic position, then it's apparently not a reportable event. Now, what I find is very interesting, though, and this is the full dynamics, and this is why I wanted to briefly talk about this, is because Coinbase recently released and partnered with Visa in order to allow Coinbase users to then spend their digital assets with a Visa. Now, think about this. Every time you use a digital asset right now and it's moved into it doesn't matter if you move the digital asset from one digital asset to the other or digital asset to fiat, every transaction is a taxable event. So can you track all of those? Will Coinbase, in their partnership with Visa, provide you with all of the reporting necessary for the filing of taxes? So this is kind of a critical thing to think about at this point in time, especially since we do not have any form of regulatory clarity, especially since the Token Taxonomy Act has not passed through Congress yet. It hasn't even passed through committee yet. And as we know, on the Token Taxonomy Act, it will allow for the transaction of up to $600 in profit to be tax exempt. So not a $600 transaction, but a $600 in profit transaction. So that I think is important, and I don't know that was clarified enough. But what they're talking about, again, it has to be a taxable event. It's not just a $600 value, because if you're moving $600 value, then there could be zero margin of profit on that $600 transaction. So I believe that's important to identify. Now, again, I don't know if this is the case or not. In this article, let me go over here real quick. Where did I put this article? I'm just gonna pull a snippet out of it. Overwhelming. Here we go. This is on News BTC. Why do I have to? Damn cookies and crap. Let's see. Crypto investors say no chance. Now, who in the world did they interview on this where they could come out so strongly and say no chance? But it says here, this coming Monday is the tax deadline. Blah blah blah. Who cares about that? Okay. Someone posted on Twitter. So this is based on a Twitter poll. Don't know how many people had actually responded to the poll. Let's see. So it's a decent, from a polling perspective, who knows who reported on this. Don't know if everybody's in the U.S. or out of state, but basically, let's see, it was Wendy O. Crypto Wendy O. said, what's the status on your crypto taxes? If you haven't done them, I recommend at accounting.com. And then it says, currently doing them. We'll start next week. Not a chance. 15% of the people said currently doing them. 5% said would start next week. Meaning at the deadline, basically, because this was April 11th, it was reported on. And then 80% said not a chance. So, I mean, as polls go, and, 620 votes, again, we don't know who her circle of influence is, and we don't know whether or not they're all in the United States. So the poll has a definite margin of error that we have no idea what that margin of error is. But it says here the poll revealed that 81% of all respondents replied not a chance. So again, we have no idea the age. We don't know anything about the background. It's just a random blind poll, but still interesting all the same. But again, bottom line is, when it comes to taxation, that's your personal obligation to fulfill and stay on top of and report it. So that's kind of where that lies. So let me take a look here at some of the chats that are popping up. I got too many chat windows now. All right, let's see here. Allison, 1:22 afternoon. Let's see here. Kig, I am not. Let me go back up and I'm going to clarify, because I'm not for social medicine. And I'm not advocating for affordable health insurance. Not at all. That's not my policy and not my thought process. I don't believe in that at all. I believe that insurance has increased the cost of healthcare, and I'm going to pull this all together. And when you guys see it, and Kig, hopefully you're still on. Hopefully you didn't drop out through this. But I think this will be extremely interesting. So let me just go down through here. Stephen Chip, the SEC is a joke. The SEC is definitely hurting the U.S., Ferdy, and it's hurting a lot more than that. But it's going to be interesting. I'm going to pull the SEC and the FDA into this conversation, and we're going to see some very similar actions or inactions from both of them. Let's see. There you go. And there you go. I've never made anybody a monitor before, so just made you guys monitors. All right, Steven. You guys can battle it out on your own now. Kid, glad you're still on. All right, so this is going to be interesting. I believe you guys are going to see something now. Now here's the thought process, Kig. And this is important, right? So here's the big question. Before that, okay. So the U.S., in my opinion, and you can show it just based on evidence of what's happening, the U.S. has become complacent. The U.S. has become relatively stagnant. And the question then there is life too easy? And does everyone already have everything that they need? Meaning, is everything too readily accessible to everybody? And I'm just throwing that out there. It's kind of a crazy thought process. And let's pull this back now. Let's try to understand, what does it mean? Is everything too readily acceptable? That doesn't mean that it's readily acceptable, that good things are readily accessible. But let's talk about healthcare as an example. Is the fact that you can walk into your doctor and never think about the cost of that office visit, is that being too readily accessible? Are we allowing and have we allowed for the demise of our healthcare system to be put in the hands of the government and the pharmaceutical companies, and even pulled it out of the hands of the doctors by not allowing doctors and the medical system to function within the free market economy? Okay, so now let's take another step back. Why are people in the United States right now so willing and readily accepting socialism? I think that this is critical because this has a direct impact on this country. It has a direct impact on our healthcare, and it seems that it's going to have a direct impact on the development of our blockchain technologies. It's going to have a direct impact on the digital assets as a new asset class. It's going to have a direct impact on the U.S. exceptionalism and the U.S. place and role in the world when it comes to developing blockchain technology, when it comes to adopting and working with digital assets. Now, there's a dichotomy here within our economy because of this. Right. So and this is what, we need to pull together. So, yes, 100%, money bags, socialism does suck. And it's been proven over and over and over again, because, again, why are people in this country now, and I'm not saying a majority, but there's a percentage that are willing to accept socialism, that are willing to discuss socialism. And it's the very ideology that actually destroyed and is currently destroying Venezuela, which was one of the largest economies in South America, and in the Americas in general. When it came to, if you compare it on the overall charts, it used to be a fully self-sufficient nation, and now being completely ruined and controlled and manipulated by a dictator. And this has to do with the same thought process of being complacent and stagnant and allowing the political elitists to really then control the direction of the country. But it goes beyond that. And so this is where, and this kind of goes a little bit, and you're right, John Adams, historically, it's never worked, and it never will work. Sorry, I'm trying to stay on top of all of the stream here with the... Let me see if I can pull this up over here on the side, and so it doesn't kind of disrupt. Let me see if I can shrink this down. Here we go. Oh, much better. All right. Here we go. Let's see if that stays popped out. All right. There was another one. Stephen Shipp. Socialism, basic income has never worked. Will never work. They always think they have a better way to implement socialism. Exactly. They always try. Okay, we want healthcare as far away from government as possible. All right. So here we go. Now get ready, because now we're going to pull all of this together, and it's going to take a little bit of time to pull this together. And I want you guys to have an open mind while we talk about it. Think about the SEC. Again, think about everything you know about the SEC. Think about all the foot dragging. Think about everything you know about the media and the FUD that the media spreads when it comes to digital assets, when it comes to blockchain technology, right? Let's really, focus in on all of that thought process. And now let's try to apply it to the FDA. And so this is where it's going to be really, really crazy. You like that? Thanks, Chip. So how many of you guys have ever heard of stem cell technology, PRP technology, which is stem cell through bone marrow extraction? And I don't throw out some comments if you guys ever heard of that. PRP is a platelet-rich plasma. PRP is used if you have injury, if you have a tear, if you have tendinitis, bone marrow. You extract bone marrow, and they can extract stem cells out of it. So if there's probably a little bit of a delay here, so when you guys kind of hear that, just throw it up. Let me know, if you guys have ever heard of it. So anyhow, PRP, stem cell technology, when it's derived from bone marrow, is revolutionizing. Okay, awesome. So this is revolutionizing the way medicine is being looked at, and how you can treat injuries. It's how you can treat a tear, a tendon tear. It's how you can treat inflammation. So from a sports injury perspective, awesome. So I'm glad you guys have heard about it. So from all perspectives, it's called regenerative medicine. And I was suffering with a small tear in my shoulder. I know multiple people that have had injury, that potentially have had if you have tendon issues, there's invasive technology within the regenerative space, and then there's non-invasive technology within the space. I want to focus in on what the FDA is prescribing right now and how they're controlling the direction that PRP and stem cell technology is being held back in the United States. So in Europe and in many other countries around the world, they're truly light years ahead of where the U.S. is right now in working with this type of technology, with PRP and stem cell technology. Now, again, this is when we're talking about PRP or stem cell. PRP is a blood draw. They take your blood, they put the blood in a special tube. They then put that into a centrifuge. They spin the blood down, and the speed at which the blood is spinning and the way the tube is made will actually extract out the healing properties, the good platelets, and everything that you need, and it's going to remove the stuff that you don't need, and it's going to concentrate all of the healing factors within your blood. There's growth factors. There's all these different things in your blood. So think about if you cut your hand, you don't bleed forever because your body sends all of these all the repair mechanisms to that spot. Now imagine if you're able to extract out and spin down and concentrate all of the healing properties and then re-inject them back directly into an area of injury that'll help speed up the healing process. Same thing with the stem cell technology. It's a bone marrow. They extract bone marrow out of the iliac crest, out of the hip. They then will spin that down. Same thing. They'll extract out the stem cells and a lot of other great things that they'll take out. So there's a different thought process on stem cells. So you have stem cell that's amniotic stem cell. Amniotic stem cell will come from the placenta, typically from donors after birth. And then there's cord blood from the umbilical cord. They'll take the umbilical cord that's been donated, and then they'll harvest it. Now, the thing is, in the United States, based on FDA compliance, you can only do certain things. In Europe, in Germany, and elsewhere, they can actually extract your blood, spin it down, get all those great, culture it, multiply it. Now all of a sudden they have a super concentrated concentration of this healing property, and then they can re-inject that back into your body, and they're getting amazing results. Same thing with bone marrow. They can take out your bone marrow, they spin it down, they get all the great healing properties, they culture it. They expand on the number of those healing properties, and then they can re-inject that back into your body. In Europe and elsewhere, they can take amniotic tissue, and they can then take out the stem cells. They can take your adipose fat, which is fat kind of in your belly area, and they can extract that out. We can do that in the United States too, and you can get stem cells from there. There's a large concentration of stem cell in the adipose fat area, but in the United States, the FDA limits the utility of PRP and stem cell. They do not allow you to culture PRP. They do not allow you to culture the bone marrow. It's called minimally manipulated, meaning you can basically just take it out, spin it, and put it back in. Get some of the healing properties, and that's it. So yes, they take out your stem cells, and they cannot, in the United States, they cannot multiply them. They cannot culture them. So in the United States, we're limited. So the amniotic stem cell, and there's a lot of companies, and one just got shut down in the U.S. because of cross-contamination, which is a major issue. And so in Europe and elsewhere, they have a slightly different process. But in the U.S., they can harvest these stem cells from amniotic tissue, but then they have to sterilize it, effectively killing everything that's in there, including the stem cells, leaving growth factors, which they'll then re-inject back in. Now with the PRP and the bone marrow, this is something that is functional and is usable in the U.S., but the point is that in Europe, they're light years ahead. Now this all falls back on the FDA. So this is where it becomes really interesting, and this is where you start pulling where the FDA thought process is with the SEC thought process. So let me just back up here. KB, glad you're joining on. Yes, PRP can be used somewhat for hair loss. There are more and more studies that are coming out on the use of PRP for hair loss. So that, and they're injecting it into your scalp, which is something else. Mike G, glad you're on. Yes, it does seem like we live in the Stone Age, and it's unfortunate, you know, because we are battling to catch up, Chip. It's really critical, and so again, unfortunately, in the United States, so there's all these amazing technologies that are being developed. The U.S. through the FDA, through big pharma lobbying, has been really holding back and putting in major blocks of resistance to this technology being promoted, developed the way it needs to be developed. Now, are great things happening in the U.S. with this technology? Yes, it's amazing what's actually happening with PRP type technology. It's unbelievable what can be done, but it could be much, much better, especially when you look at what goes on over in Europe. And so now the FDA has been going after certain companies. They're going after doctors because many of the doctors become, they try to broadcast and promote information that isn't necessarily factual. So Jacob's Ladder, yeah, there is really no profit in cure, although there is, it's just not to the pharmaceutical industry. so this is what's really crazy. Now, obviously, when we started out, I said, think about the SEC dragging their feet. Now, doesn't it sound familiar? Because the FDA is doing the exact same thing. There's a lack of regulatory clarity when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to this space that we're talking about, stem cell and PRP, due to the fact that the FDA statements can be misunderstood. The FDA statements will show to be compliant with the FDA. You can minimally manipulate. So how do you define minimal manipulation? So obviously there is some definition, but at the same time, they're dragging their feet because as other countries are moving way, way, way beyond where we are today, and when you have individuals coming to the U.S. and like, holy crap, what in the world is going on in the U.S. that you guys can't do what's being done over in Europe? Now, doesn't that seem very familiar when we think about the SEC? The SEC dragging their feet. The SEC not providing regulatory clarity when it comes to digital assets. The SEC putting up blocks that are really pushing blockchain technology companies to go overseas, to go to Europe, to go to Switzerland, to go to so many other countries around the world. So now this brings us back to the original point of the conversation, right? So has the U.S. been lulled into accepting mediocrity? And that's the next question, right? We have become overly complacent. Have we become overly complacent and soft when it comes to competing in the world and what goes on, you know, on a political stage in the U.S.? Let me go up here. Moneybags threw something up here. Coinbase Pro is required to provide a Form 1099-K to customers who have had gross proceeds of more than 20K and more than 200 transactions. Or that's really good. I think that's important to state. That's important. Yep, that's really good. So that's if you have quite a few transactions, more than 200 transactions, or if you have more than $20,000 sitting on their exchange. All right, so let's see here. Moneybags put up the link. Yes, definitely go and do your research there. I think that's important. Let's see, Stephen Chip. Look what happened to Nipsey Hussle. He was working on that documentary about a man who claimed to have cured AIDS cancer. The subject of the doc also died. Government regulations are good. Too much of everything is bad. You do need government regulatory clarity. You have to, as a community, you can't have anarchy. So I'm glad, John, I'm glad you brought that up, because there has to be some form of acceptance. There has to be some form of let's call it, a standard operating procedure, within society. So we have to all get along with each other. We have to have we know there's good and there's bad. We know we have to have taxation to support our roads, to support our fire, to support our police, to support schools. There's a lot that we need to contribute to society, to live within society, garbage collection. But then at the same time, we also have to make sure that we're monitoring government, and there has to be some form, like you said, government regulation can be a good thing because it gives us, and we go back and talk about regulatory clarity, but it gives us that clarity of how we operate within society. Again, we don't live in an anarchy. The fact that people are attracted to digital assets and to blockchain, maybe initially people were thinking, anarchy and getting rid of banks and all of that, but that's not real. What is real is that we live in a society, we work in a society, and we're developing our countries and our world within a society. And people need to be participants of that society in order to continue to exist and to grow and to make everybody better. So let's see here. Alice interrupt. Through natural treatment, the trouble is you cannot patent fresh fruit. There's a lot of great natural cures out there. Israel, recently announced they had a treatment for some forms of cancer that they've had amazingly positive results on. So the drug industry is definitely a revenue generator. The drug industry, and it's interesting because we go back to we do have the ability to heal ourselves. You can extract right from your own body. Imagine that. Imagine you can take your own blood. Now, here's the crazy thing that I left out. The FDA, based on FDA compliance, you can only minimally manipulate your PRP or your bone marrow when it's spun and put back in. If you culture your own stuff, you're culturing your stem cells, meaning you're duplicating or replicating, whatever the terminology is. But if you do that, if you go beyond minimal manipulation, the FDA will now deem that creation as a pharmaceutical that needs to be regulated accordingly as a pharmaceutical, meaning that you need to have 10 years of studies, you need to register it, you need to have spent millions upon millions of dollars, and et cetera, et cetera. So no, aborted babies are not used for stem cells. That's a different conversation, a different type of stem cell. So what we're talking about, and really we need to have a clear distinction on this as well. So yeah, forget about, that's where there's been a big misnomer also in this space, because we think back to the battle of, of using and the testing of embryonic stem cell, which obviously, we don't want to do that. It's not a good thing. And it's something that, that might have been, I don't know. So, so aborted babies, Planned Parenthood. I believe that, we all saw that Planned Parenthood got caught up in the harvesting and just horrible things that they've done when it comes in, and that's a whole separate topic and conversation that we can get into. So again, no, stem cell, strictly, specifically speaking, the only type of stem cell in the United States that can be used, that can be extracted, is taken from two locations. One, either your bone marrow, which would be the iliac crest, your hip, or from adipose fat, which would be from your belly area, and they take out the adipose fat and they spin it down and somehow they extract out the stem cell. So it's your own body. You have healing properties within your body, and then you need to take it a step further and focus on the optimization of your body. So there's plenty of doctors out there, and so now before I get into any of this stuff, because I think it's kind of an interesting topic, but from a medical perspective, and it goes back to some of the things we were talking about, and Kig had asked me about, am I talking about socialized medicine? And I'm definitely just got a pinch in my neck, but I'm definitely not talking about socialized medicine. What I'm talking about is that there's a dichotomy is in the economy that we talked about, which we can get into more. There also is within healthcare. So we have sick care, which is insurance-based medicine, and then we have healthcare and healing care, which is cash-based medicine. And cash-based medicine used to be unaffordable for the majority of the people. Cash-based medicine is geared up and had been geared up in the past for those that have large amounts of disposable income. That's been coming down. The trend has been changing significantly. PRP is a perfect example of cash-based medicine because it's not covered under insurance. The reason why it's not covered under insurance is because it works, because it doesn't keep you sick. If you think about the difference between getting a PRP injection and getting a steroid injection for pain, steroid is a Band-Aid that allows you to continue being sick and injured, whereas PRP injected into the area of injury will actually heal the location. That's the distinction. It'll actually help you. So to your point there again, stem cell, no, even the umbilical cord or the amniotic stem cell, let's put it in parentheses, quotes, because it's not really, once in the United States, it's not a stem cell any longer because they do extract it out. It is in the umbilical cord. It is in the amniotic tissue. They take it, they chop it up, they harvest it. That's from donors. It's fairly well regulated. There's a number of different banks where you can get this from. It's donated by the mothers after they give birth. Now, that in the United States is once it goes through a full sterilization process, everything is killed in that product. There are no stem cells left in it. So that leaves us with only one source or two sources of stem cell, again, either from bone marrow or from adipose. Now, this is insane. So this is the whole picture. So from a cash medicine perspective, and this is why I said insurance has really destroyed our healthcare industry. Pharma has destroyed our healthcare industry, mainly because when you go to the doctor, we are complacent. We've accepted mediocrity. We don't accept excellence. When you go, if you're injured, if you get into a car accident, if you have a heart incident, whatever it might be, and if you need surgery, emergency care and high-end surgical procedures in the U.S. are probably more advanced and better than anywhere else in the world. But we're talking about preventative health care and sick care versus health care, which is the day-to-day stuff, staying healthy, getting better, feeling better, etc. So that's right. There is no profit in that, and there is profit for sure in keeping people sick. So what does that say about the United States at this point when we look at an FDA that is putting blocks up to this type of technology and not providing regulatory clarity on that? And then you have the SEC, which is doing the exact same thing when it comes to digital assets and it comes to blockchain technology. So what the fuck, what is that saying about us? It makes absolutely no sense. So we're slipping behind in economic technology, digital assets. We're slipping behind in blockchain technology, and we're slipping behind in healthcare technology. So this then brings me back to my original thought process on all of this. Was this preordained? Was this created? And is this, something that we're now seeing battled on the political stage to change over the past couple years? Were we set on this path years ago when they wanted to create when they talked about the world global exceptionalism, and they started to look at American exceptionalism as something negative on the political stage, where in fact American exceptionalism is critical because we have to be proud of who we are and what we do in this country. But then again, does that, if we don't believe in that American exceptionalism, if we've accepted the status quo, if we've accepted mediocrity, what does that mean? And what does that mean for us as a whole as we're looking at blockchain technology and digital assets? So, hey, Raymond Smallwood, thanks for joining. Glad you're here. Mike G, I don't know. I know I commented, but I don't know if I said what's up when you came in. Let's see here. So, all right. So here's another crazy thought, right? So blockchain technology, as we know, can be used for many different things. Blockchain technology as an open source decentralization or decentralized technology can be important in our government process. It can be important in our healthcare process. It brings about full transparency, and it also puts more power back into the hands of the people where we want it. Andrew Davis, what's up? Glad you joined. So through this blockchain technology, we're also putting the power of decision and growth of this country back into the hands of the people who actually can make the United States great on all levels. So this is really important. Now, this reminds me of the quote. This is just the other day I talked about it, but this is a direct quote from Rep. Scott Perry of Pennsylvania, one of the co-sponsors of the Token Taxonomy Act. But his quote was so poignant as it related to blockchain, and he said the country that leads in the technology, meaning blockchain technology, will dominate the global economy. Now, is it necessary for the United States to dominate the global economy? I think we need to be a leader. Obviously, every country wants to do the best for their country. I think things need to happen in order for the United States not to keep falling behind, as we're seeing within these different technologies. However, at the same time, from a global stage, I don't want to call it necessarily globalization, but let's just look at it from a macro perspective and look at the world as a whole. And you look at a country like Ethiopia, that has historically struggled and suffered over the years. A country like Ethiopia can spring ahead and actually have opportunities and potential to compete on the global stage when it comes to digital assets and blockchain technology. I think that's pretty amazing, because at the end of the day, the United States has become complacent mainly because we've been a sole acting superpower with very little competition in the world. We've led economically, and we've led technology for many, many years. And then it's allowed us to become complacent. It's allowed us to ignore the fact of certain regulations that might be needed. It's allowed us to overlook the government dragging their feet when other things become more important, and it's allowed other actors around the world to really kind of spur ahead and spring ahead with the same technologies that we should be leading the industry in. All right, so competition is good. I want to see a country like Ethiopia. I want to see them succeed. I want to see a country like Nigeria get away from the bad acting, and I want to see a country like Nigeria embrace blockchain technology for the good, and I want to see them become a competitor on the world stage. Competition at the end of the day breeds excellence. Now, without competition, you get complacency, you get product complacency, you get individual complacency. It's insane, right? So this is good for blockchain, it's good for the economy, it's good for healthcare, and it's definitely good for the United States to have this kind of competition and see other countries around the world begin to join the global economy. So if you have countries within Africa that there's many reasons as to why their economies haven't succeeded. There's many reasons why there's a lot of struggle and conflict in those areas because of artificial borders. If you go back historically and look at why Africa has the political issues that they do have. And so now it's amazing that these countries, these little countries, with it, and it starts at the grassroots level. From a grassroots level, it's allowing individuals to better their position and to better their countries and to bring technology that previously would be completely unheard of. To see a country like Ethiopia, all of a sudden you see, or Nigeria, and all of a sudden you see these big major blockchain projects springing up out of these countries. You know, it's amazing. It really, truly is amazing. So, Andrew Davis, how long will that bill take to pass? You're talking about the Token Taxonomy Act, I assume. Hey, Allison, I'm glad you joined in. Hopefully you can join in again. Yeah, if we're still streaming, look forward to seeing you back on when you get back on. So Andrew, yeah, so right now, just as a side note, the Token Taxonomy Act has to pass committee. It's been reintroduced. It needs to go through the Financial Services Committee. Once it gets approved through Financial Services Committee, it'll be put in front of Congress. Then Congress needs to review it. If there's any changes, requests of changes, modification, whatever it might be, at that point, the bill will then pass through a vote at Congress. Once it passes Congress, then it needs to go to Senate. Once it passes Senate, then it can be put on the president's desk for a signing. Now, if we go back and we look at some of the bills that in this space, in the digital asset blockchain space, that had been introduced and passed in January, it took like 2 or 3 weeks from introduction to passing in Congress and sent to the Senate. So it could happen quick. I think that this one, there's a lot of modification within the Token Taxonomy Act when it comes to the Securities Exchange Act and whatnot. So a lot of that is going to be interesting. Cardano has a lot going on in Ethiopia. It does. I just saw an interesting YouTube video this morning when I was out walking the dog, and it was talking about, I think one of the guys working within Cardano, and he was specifically talking about what's going on over in Ethiopia. I thought that was really interesting. So now let's take a step into more serious matters. So I thought this was awesome, but let's talk about something serious now. Have you guys ever heard of, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but PewDiePie? He's the #1 YouTube sensation. So PewDiePie, and this is interesting because he has a huge number of streamers that follow him, or a number of followers that he streams to and makes videos for. So PewDiePie announced that he is taking his channel and he's leaving YouTube and he's moving over to DLive. Now, what's interesting about this is that, the largest YouTube sensation in the world is, fleeing YouTube and going to a blockchain-based platform, to which the monetization then is paid out in digital asset, and the monetization is paid out, by the viewers. So this is interesting. It's a different dynamic. I'm trying to find the article I opened up here to pull out a few points, and I'm not. Let me see. This is not. Let me get rid of some of these and find. There we go. I found it. Now it just. Okay, here we go. So this is the biggest YouTube star. I just wanted to pull out some figures here. Check this out. His estimated net worth is between 30 to 50 million dollars. He has 93 million subscribers and constantly counting. There's a clock somewhere where they're counting his subscriptions on a regular basis. It's almost like a debt clock. He has a subscriber clock. So this guy PewDiePie, never watched any of his streams. My son might have. I know that some of the people that he watches talk about him. So he's moved to a decentralized platform. It's built on what's called the Lino blockchain. Live stream now it's referred to. And it says here, uses tokens to reward content creators for their work. And they're saying this is a severe blow to Google, to YouTube, because he's potentially taking his 93 million subscribers with him over to DLive. So we'll see how that works. This guy seems super excited. His quote was, "I'm excited to start live streaming again regularly. DLive is great for me because I'm treated like a real partner, just like all of the other streamers on their unique platform." So this is really an interesting move for him to make this transition over to DLive. And then it says here, they don't know. So there's a possibility that DLive is paying him to make the move. And it says here specifically, it has not been disclosed how much Lino is paying the star. But the founder, Wilson Way of DLive, said they were excited to be working with him. He says DLive pledges it will never take a cut from content creators' work through subscriptions or digital gifts. And then here's a quote. Let me see here. Okay. He hasn't published a video yet, but already has 76,000 followers and growing, and has promised in his first DLive stream on April 14th. So that is, what's today's date? I've lost track of the dates. Is that today? Tomorrow? I don't even know what day it is. It's crazy. To dish out. So he's going to give out between $10,000 to $50,000 in Lino tokens to other content creators to share the wealth and help the platform develop. So that to me is pretty interesting. I think that's a big leap. Steve, you've watched PewDiePie, so you know who it is. Yeah. So I thought that was I thought that was interesting. I thought that was important too because it shows the direction of, again, one of the biggest YouTube creators in terms of what is possible and where the things are, where everything's going right now. So and then on another note, wanted to bring this up. This is a new bill that is being sponsored by Darren Soto. So Darren Soto, as you guys know, was actually the co-sponsor of the Token Taxonomy Act. So as a co-sponsor of the Token Taxonomy Act, obviously he has a big passion for digital assets, but Darren Soto has already sponsored a couple bills that were already passed through Congress. Today's the 13th. Thanks, Mike. I mean, it's been a crazy week. It's just been nonstop, and I go to look at my watch, and I guess I could have looked at the clock on my computer. I didn't think about that. I have the wrong watch on. Doesn't have the date on it. So, but anyhow, so this bill that's being sponsored by Darren Soto is he wants to give the FTC money in order to go after crypto's bad actors. So if we think back to some of the bills that were proposed and actually passed through Congress already, these bills had to do initially, these were the bills that were passed back in January when it came to the blockchain digital asset space. They were really focused on providing resources in government to create a program and create a team of individuals that will then monitor the utility of digital assets when it comes to terrorism and other nefarious purposes. So they were establishing a baseline. Now, Darren Soto is a huge proponent of regulatory clarity for digital assets and has worked last year and this year and has worked very closely with Warren Davidson in getting the Token Taxonomy Act introduced. So Darren Soto is definitely a big fan of digital assets. but his new bill will give the FTC $25 million to go after the crypto's bad actors, as they say. This article that I pulled up was from the blockcrypto.com. And so let's see who they let's see. Okay, so Politico wrote that the bill would also provide the agency, which aims to protect the interests of American consumers and fight anti-competitive business practices, with authority that would supersede the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. However, this is Politico. So then I'm just reading through this article. This is where articles get skewed and misconstrued. A SOTA spokesperson told the Block that Politico report was mistaken. Their article was inaccurate, that nothing in the act shall supersede the authority of the Commodity Trading Commission, nor prevent treatment of digital tokens as commodities subject to the Commodity Exchange Act. So I think this is really important. Again, there's a lot going on in the space, and there's still a little bit of tension at different levels, especially when it comes to government. Then there's also misinformation that's being passed along through different media outlets, and in many cases, the misinformation that's passed along in the media outlets is due to the fact that they really don't know what they're talking about, and we're seeing that at many different levels. So if we go back to what I was talking about on healthcare, there's many articles that are coming out in the media, and Moneybags brought up our stem cells, is that coming from abortion, and really the media has done a job of manipulating the information and accurate information that's come out on it, and the media then will also focus in on the bad actors within the regenerative medicine space, as the media will focus on the FUD and the negative information that comes out in when it comes to digital assets and blockchain. That's why I just think there's such a tie-in, and we see two major government organizations that are putting up the blocks and dragging their feet on providing the regulatory clarity that's necessary to really move this space forward. So let's see here. What time is it? Oh, you know what? I've been going like an hour, and I want to keep these to an hour. I don't want to go too far. I've got a few other things that I was going to pull up here. I'm going to summarize this down to one last point here on XRP. And this really is all telling in terms of the direction and some of these exchanges embracing of XRP as an important digital asset. And this was Uphold waiving all transfer costs on XRP, and they know, Uphold and these others, they know where a large amount of transaction will come from, is coming from, and the potential from that moving forward. So I thought that was really important, that Uphold made that big announcement in support of the community. So let's see here. You guys have anything else? If not, again, this is Jeff with the HODL Report. If you don't know, I'm glad the small group of us came together on an early Saturday morning. I am planning to do a live stream on Monday evening. I'm going to do my best to do Monday, Wednesday, and Saturdays. So Monday at 10 p.m., Wednesday at 10 p.m., and then Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Stephen Chip, if you're still on, he streams on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 p.m. And before that, there's a whole lineup of people that are streaming. Stephen Chip is working on a schedule. More work for you, Stephen. Yeah, so, hey, Moneybags, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Get the word out if you guys can. I know Saturday mornings is tough. I like Saturday mornings because it's easy for me. I get up early anyways. And then by the time I get back and get ready and all that good stuff. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, Stephen Chip. Like I said, Stephen's working on putting together some form of a live schedule. So that way There'll be a go-to with links to channels and all of that with times. But you have this whole lineup of live streaming. It's kind of crazy, and people stick through each one of them. But you've got I'm going to be doing, like I said, Monday, Wednesday, Saturdays, Stephen Ship, Tuesday, Thursdays, and then you've got, before that, you've got DNI doing a live stream. I think he's doing Monday through Friday, and now he's doing mornings as well. I've logged in, and it's like 6 a.m. Over here, a quarter to 6 a.m., and he's already doing live streams. But DNI is doing Monday through Friday. His typical live stream, I believe, is 9 to 10. Before him is Brad Kimes from 8 to 9. And then before that, you have CKJ. So you could get your dose of information and interaction across the board with all these different live streams. And there's so much content out there. It's really unparalleled and amazing, you know. And DNI keeps, you know, he talks about the hive mind. You know, it's interesting. But really, it's about the community. You know, we talk about the grassroots effort. We talk about what was needed and what is needed in order to bring about regulatory clarity, what's needed to bring about healthcare regulatory clarity, what's needed on the financial side. It starts with all of us. You know, a small group, passionate group of individuals that want to make a difference. I gave a similar talk in a political forum this past week about the grassroots and what's needed to really, you know, keep things moving forward in the direction we want them to move in. So truly appreciate everybody, Moneybags, appreciate your input, you know, everything that you're doing. And the comments and everybody else that's logged in, you know, whoever's still left on here. Truly appreciate you guys logging in early morning and sharing some feedback. And until next time, I'll have some videos that I'll push out. I'm still working on something comparing Fedwire to Swift to RippleNet, and I think that's important to talk about Fedwire. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I think I want to put that on a video instead of doing it in a live stream. There's a little bit that I want to put together on that. So I'm going to roll that out, but next live stream I'll be on Monday. Until that time, look forward to seeing you again. This is Jeff with the HODL Report. Keep on hodling your crypto.